High in the Himalayas, the air is thin, and the tension is palpable. Two giants, India and China, face off along the line of actual control, a border that is more a ceasefire line than a settled boundary. Soldiers from both sides watch each other, every movement scrutinized, every new road or outpost reported. The memory of the deadly Galwan Valley clash in 2020 lingers, a stark reminder of how quickly peace can shatter. Since then, both nations have fortified their positions, building roads, air bases, and shelters in this unforgiving terrain. This is not just a border dispute, it's a contest for influence between two rising powers. The standoff is a symbol of a deeper rivalry, one that shapes alliances and ripples across the globe. India and China, ancient civilizations with modern ambitions, are locked in a struggle for regional dominance. What happens here could ignite a conflict with consequences far beyond these mountains. The soldiers' silent vigil is a daily reminder of the stakes. Every patrol, every report, is a potential spark. The world watches, knowing that the peace here is fragile and the cost of miscalculation immense. This is the front line of a 21st century rivalry. The roof of the world is also its fault line. The tension today is rooted in a long, troubled history. The 1962 Sino-Indian War left scars that never healed, establishing a disputed line of actual control that remains undefined. Aksai Chin and Arunachal Pradesh, two remote, contested regions, are at the heart of the dispute. Decades of skirmishes and standoffs have kept the border volatile. Agreements to avoid firearms led to brutal hand-to-hand clashes, most recently in Galwan Valley in 2020. That incident shattered the illusion that the border could be managed separately from broader relations. For India, it confirmed suspicions of Chinese aggression. For China, it was a response to perceived Indian provocation. Every move is now viewed through a lens of deep mistrust. Diplomatic efforts are hampered by memories of betrayal and vulnerability. The legacy of 1962 and the trauma of 2020 define every negotiation. The border is not just a line on a map, it's a symbol of unresolved rivalry. Lasting peace remains elusive, as suspicion overshadows every step. The past is never far from the present in the Himalayas. Since 2020, China has transformed the border with a vast network of roads, air bases, and fortified outposts. The PLA's new infrastructure allows rapid deployment of troops, tanks, and advanced weaponry, even in winter. Airfields now host modern fighter jets and attack helicopters, protected by hardened shelters. Radar stations and missile sites create a formidable air defense, giving China an edge in the skies. High-altitude tanks, long-range artillery, and drones have become standard. State-of-the-art barracks and medical facilities signal China's intent to stay for the long haul. Relentless military exercises keep troops ready for high-altitude combat. The message is clear. China is prepared for any conflict, and its presence is permanent. China's strategy extends beyond its own borders, anchored by its deep alliance with Pakistan. This partnership presents India with the threat of a two-front war, dividing its military focus. China supplies Pakistan with advanced jets, missiles, and air defense systems, keeping India on edge. The 2025 India-Pakistan conflict saw Chinese-made weapons in action, with reports of direct Chinese support. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, running through disputed Kashmir, cements this alliance and gives China access to the Indian Ocean. Ports and infrastructure built under CPEC have strategic, not just economic, implications. For India, this alliance is a strategic nightmare. Any conflict with China could quickly draw in Pakistan. Beijing and Islamabad's cooperation is deeper than ever, complicating India's defense calculus. The two-front threat is real, and India must prepare for it. China's partnership with Pakistan is a force multiplier in any future conflict. The China-India rivalry is part of a larger global contest. India has drawn closer to the US and its allies, especially through the Quad, countering China's influence in the Indo-Pacific. Joint military exercises and intelligence sharing have deepened these partnerships. China sees the Quad as an attempt to contain its rise, fueling its own military buildup. Russia, once India's main arms supplier, now leans toward China, forcing India to balance old and new alliances. Across South Asia, China's Belt and Road projects challenge India's traditional influence. India responds with its own development initiatives and security partnerships. The region has become a chessboard for great power competition. The stakes are higher than ever, with every move watched worldwide. Despite military tensions, China and India are major trading partners. Bilateral trade exceeds $130 billion, but India's massive trade deficit is a source of anxiety. India relies on Chinese imports for everything from electronics to pharmaceuticals, creating economic vulnerability. Efforts to reduce dependence, like Make in India and bans on Chinese apps, have had limited impact. Decoupling is difficult. India's manufacturing still depends on Chinese components. The paradox: to compete with China, India must buy from China. Economic ties should deter conflict, but they also create leverage and mistrust. The relationship is a web of cooperation and competition. Trade is both a bridge and a battleground. Despite the military buildup, diplomacy is not dead. Recent disengagements in Ladakh and high-level meetings have eased immediate tensions. Confidence-building measures, resuming flights, sharing river data, and allowing pilgrimages signal a fragile thaw. Yet, fundamental disagreements persist. India wants full border de-escalation. China prefers to compartmentalize issues. Talks continue, but trust is thin and progress slow. Diplomacy manages the crisis, but doesn't resolve it. The peace is uneasy, and the next crisis could be just a misstep away. Can China and India avoid war? The answer is uncertain. Both know a conflict would be catastrophic, economically and globally. Yet military buildups and rising nationalism make miscalculation a constant risk. A single incident could spiral out of control. Avoiding war requires sustained diplomacy, clear communication, and real compromise. Agreeing on a mutually respected border and expanding buffer zones are essential steps. Both must recognize each other's security concerns and move beyond zero-sum thinking. The path to peace is narrow, but the alternative is unthinkable. The world has a stake in their restraint. The future depends on their choices, coexistence or confrontation. The China-India standoff is more than a regional dispute. It's a global flashpoint. Together, they represent over a third of humanity and are vital to the world economy. War would disrupt global supply chains, trigger recession, and force nations to take sides. The Indian Ocean's shipping lanes would be at risk, crippling trade worldwide. A conflict could escalate into a wider proxy war, testing global institutions and alliances. The world cannot afford to look away. Peace here is a global necessity. The rivalry is a test of whether rising powers can coexist peacefully. If they manage their differences, it's a hopeful sign for the century. If not, instability will define the era. The silent watch in the Himalayas is a vigil for us all.